Hi guys, in this section we will be discussing about the profile diagram, another type of structural. Now this is something you don't need to draw every day. It's more of a thing which you want to relate with the domain specific systems, right? Now say for example, in general, let me first tell you what profile diagrams are. Now a profile diagram in UML is a specialized diagram. What is the specialized diagram? This will be introducing you new kinds of building blocks to represent the domain specific or a platform specific element. Now why it is essential? It is essential because you can extend the UML to fit a specific need. Now say for example, you have a class, okay, you have a particular kind of service, you have a particular kind of building blocks which you want to relate with your particular situation. Now this will be interesting. Why? Because say if you are working in a finance domain and somebody is working in healthcare domain, now this both people will be still using UML, right? You still will be using UML, but for your healthcare domain you may need doctors, you may need nurses as classes, but in the finance domain you will require a credit card, a debit card, and all those sort of things in the banking domain, say for example. Now when you are drawing those diagrams, no, at this point in time what you can see that these are more of a generic thing, and this has nothing to do with a domain specific model. So it is more of a general. So to make it specific, you can extend UML and build your own domain diagrams or your domain models that you can extend while you are drawing the profile diagrams. Now as a general purpose modeling language, UML provides anyway a stable basis for different kind of requirements. That is no doubt over there, but it is not defined for a specific application domain or any specific technology, isn't it? Now to do that, however, in any circumstances, what you can do is you can start drawing your own kind of diagrams, or I will say own kind of specific models. I will show you. You have to use some stereotypes. We have learned the stereotypes earlier, but still we will show. Okay, now as a general purpose idea, you need to know this so that you can go to the advanced concept, and that is why I am discussing about the profile diagrams. You don't need to do that unless you are doing a domain specific diagram. Now it will be again a kind of structural diagram in UML, right? Okay, but this provides, rather than a generic extension, this will be providing you from the general, you are extending and customizing the UML model. And how will you do that? Profiles will be defined using stereotypes, tagged value definition, and constraints, which I will show you shortly what it is all about. Okay, now the basic concept you need to remember in the profile diagram is you will have a stereotypes, you will have a tagged values, and you will have a constraint. Now it is basically a extensibility mechanism that allows you to extend and customize UML. Okay, and you will be adding your own building blocks. Do you remember what stereotype is? Now stereotypes allows you to increase the vocabulary of UML. Now how to show you stereotypes, I will just show you. This is more of a generic and you don't need to bother much at this point in time. When you will be extending, you can ask me a question over the comment section and I can always answer you on those. But when you are defining a class, say for example in our case it was a student class. Now when you are defining a student class, I will just name it so that we are in the same page. Now say in our model we were defining student because we were dealing with the course. We are not dealing with finance at the moment, neither we are dealing with healthcare domain, right? Now for this student class, how will you define the stereotypes? You will go here and you have different kind of stereotypes. Now you can add stereotypes is what I am saying in the model. Now if I go in details of that, there are different kinds of predefined model. The extension mechanism in UML 1.1 will be different from UML 2. Now UML 2 today whatever we are using lets you to arbitrarily use the data structure for an extended element, which means that the more extensive and more precise model can be drawn. Now they have given all these models, the stereotypes, right? Boundary, capability, consumer, entity, message types, and so many things which are more related from our IT perspective. Now when you are doing a banking thing, you can add a credit card, debit card, all those stereotypes you can add depending upon what you want to draw. Now profile only allows the adoption or customization of an existing model. Okay, that is what you need to remember. So in UML 2 or above, profiles can be dynamically combined so that several profiles will be applied at the same time. You can do that, but you need to remember it starts from the M0 layer where you are defining the objects, you are defining then the model layers, then you will be going to the M2 layer which is a meta model layer, and then there is a super layer which is called as M3 layer. So MOF model, UML meta model, ideal meta model, UML models or ideal interfaces, these are the key things around that. But don't get confused at this point in time. At a glance we need to remember that when you are doing a profile diagram, you need to remember about the stereotypes. Now when you define this as a stereotype, say for example student, if you want to define student as an entity, you can do that. Let me find out that entity. Okay, if it is an entity, you just add that entity like that. If you are just imagine if student itself is available over here, and for any entity when you are defining, it will come. Now this is represented as a student entity, say for example. Okay, now in the similar way you should have a tagged value for that. What are tagged value? Tagged values are used to extend the properties of the UML so that you can add additional information in the specific model. Okay, now this allows you to specify keyword value pairs of a model where keywords are the attributes, right? Now tagged value can be useful for adding properties to the model like code generation, version control, configuration management, and all those. I will not go in those details. And one last thing you need to remember in the profile is the constraints. Now they are the properties which will be again specifying the semantics or condition that must be held true at all the time. Now it allows you to extend the semantics of UML building blocks by adding new protocols. Okay, so too much of theoretical information will not help. So let me tell you that how you will be doing a profile diagram in our case. Now say for example, if you are doing a profile diagram for student, course and instructor, how will you do that? Now it's like adding custom stickers to a set of standard building blocks. So imagine you have a standard block representing common things, but for your specific project on education, what we were doing throughout this course, you want special stickers that say student, course and instructor to make those blocks unique to your content. In those cases, the profile diagrams help you to define and use the specific stickers. Okay, so in context of UML, the standard blocks are the UML standard elements. The stickers are the stereotypes, okay, which is custom extension. And once you have defined these stereotypes or the stickers, you can use them in other UML diagrams to represent your specific concept like student, course and instructor. How will you draw that? It is again simple. I will say you can bring a component again into picture and we see whether the component is added or not. How to see that? We will go to the component and add that component. Now it has been added. If I bring a component into our storyline or our diagram, now in the component, say if I am considering this as a full component and I want to add the student as a stereotype over there, I can add. Then I can also add another stereotype. I mean it will look like this when you are adding. So you will get this kind of things inside here, okay, in this particular section, and you can drag and drop those, but you have to add from the back end because you are adding into the meta model. So profile diagrams are something when you are going to an advanced stage, and then you start adding those the domain specific models, and is not in the scope of our course at the moment. That's why I'm not showing you behind the scene the meta models and those things, so that it will be very confusing, isn't it? Now if you want to do another say for example course and instructor is what I was telling you. So I will just quickly draw another class. I will go here, and every time you see a student class will be looking like this. So you go to the stereotype, you can make it as a class. So in the similar way, all these can be existing. If you say for example, just for time being, consider that it is not an entity, it is a boundary. You keep changing those, it will keep on changing, okay? So the stereotype, if you still want to edit the stereotype, you take away this, you take away this, and you say no, this one is not like that, this is an interface. Say for example, the moment you say interface, it becomes an interface, and it will be easier for coming from class interface to the actual class. Now say this is again student, just for time being you consider that. Now student interface, okay, so this is a class, that's why it is not taking, sorry for that. So for interface I have to take another as you know that there will be another symbol. You just need to drag and drop that symbol for the interface. Where will I get that? Shortly we can get that. If you remember the component, we have an interface. So if you bring that interface, and from there the student class is coming. Say for example, there is an interface in a high level where everything is defined as a person. From person a student class is coming, from person an instructor is coming, and those. So in a nutshell, the profile diagrams are more of an extension, and we don't need to do too many things, at least in this course. It can be covered in a separate course. Thank you very much.